During the time of racial segregation in America's rural South, the Rosenwald School Project was a pioneering endeavor to provide quality education for African American students. Named after Julius Rosenwald, an Illinois businessman and philanthropist, these institutions were established in collaboration with Booker T. Washington through the Rosenwald Fund, which supported the construction of more than 5,000 schools. In this video, we'll delve into the history of the Rosenwald School Project and hear from the former students as they reflect on their experiences attending one of these influential schools located in Fairfax City.
More than a century ago, in the rural South of America, a movement was sparked by an unexpected collaboration that had a profound impact on the future of African American families. Between 1917 and 1932, over 5,000 Rosenwald schools were established to provide education exclusively to more than 700,000 black children. This transformative initiative was made possible through the partnership of Booker T. Washington, president of the Tuskegee Institute, and Julius Rosenwald, a German Jewish immigrant who had amassed his wealth as the head of Sears, Roebuck and Company.
We call them Rosenwald Schools because of Julius Rosenwald. He was the president of the Sears and Roebuck Company, and he was the philanthropist behind the movement. But you really got to look at Booker T. Washington and the Tuskegee Institute. They probably should be called the Booker T. Washington Schools because they were the brainchilds behind the construction of the buildings, how the philosophy behind them, providing new facilities for students, better facilities, in many cases, facilities in general where no schools existed.
Before Rosenwald schools existed, African American students in southern rural areas experienced inadequate public education due to segregation. The funding allocated for their education was notably lower in comparison to the resources provided for white students in similar situations.
So the schools in the county from 1870, before the Rosenwald schools on, were primarily one-room schoolhouses in some communities. In other communities, they were held in churches. A lot of the black community had to attend school in churches because the school system just wasn't building schoolhouses for them. And so you have that for many, many years, students in the black community attending school in a variety of different facilities. It wasn't like that in the white communities. There were some rented facilities that white students used and a few churches, but that tended to be in the very early years of the school system, whereas in some of the black communities, you see that go all the way into the 1940s and 50s.
Julius Rosenwald funded the school building program, first by working with Booker T. Washington's Tuskegee Institute, and then forming the Rosenwald Fund Foundation to manage the program. These schools served as more than just educational institutions. They acted as catalysts for bringing together not only children, but also entire communities.
Rosenwald and Washington met and discussed this project, and Julius Rosenwald decided to provide funding to make this possible. And what was interesting is at first, Julius Rosenwald said, just like Sears kit houses, because you could get the Sears catalog and buy a house and assemble it yourself. He said, why don't we do it that way? And Booker T. Washington said, no, what we want to do is we want to have the community be involved in the construction of the school. We want local labor to be involved. We want it to be a community building process. So it's not just about a building, it's about the greater community as well. The Tuskegee Institute and the people who designed Rosenwald schools, they had a very specific idea in mind about the facilities themselves. They designed many, many different buildings. They did the architectural layouts from 1 classroom buildings to 2 classroom buildings to 3 classroom buildings, and you should see their design for a high school. It is the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And they took into account ideas about how to improve the education of students within the building, and by that, they took into account natural light. They wanted to provide as much natural light for the students to learn by as possible. And so they gave specific directions for their buildings to be sited on the land in such a way as to maximize the natural light through the building throughout the day. It's something we kind of introduced in our modern schools about 20 years ago. Everybody's talking about natural light now, but they were talking about that in the 1920s and just how important that was for students. So Rosenwald constructed schools were what we call frame buildings. They were built out of wood. They were not brick and mortar school buildings like we have today. They were large spaces, kind of like the one we're in now, with chalkboards and wonderful desks and lots of large windows. The windows were one of the best features because they had all that natural light pouring in. The schools still had outhouses outside. That was very common for that era. Sometimes you would have a single outhouse, sometimes a separate outhouse for boys and girls. But inside you had the chalkboards and the desks and the books and sometimes a piano in the back. And a little library, a little shelf with books. So there were a lot of the amenities that were there that were not provided in other schools in the county. There were 4 schools built in Fairfax County with Rosenwald funding. They were located in a community called Seminary, which is now part of the city of Alexandria. One was in Herndon, which was called the Oak Grove School. One was in the town of Fairfax, which was called the Fairfax School. And one was in the town of Clifton, called the Clifton School. The Clifton School was a 2-room schoolhouse. The Oak Grove School was 2-room. Fairfax was also 2-room, and it had a coat closet that was later turned into a classroom. And the Seminary School, I believe, was 3 classrooms to start and was later expanded to 4 classrooms. So the Rosenwald Foundation provided grant funding in different amounts to different communities. It was a split arrangement. The Rosenwald Foundation provided some funding, the local school boards provided some funding, and then the community itself raised funding. And it was specific to each kind of school, so depending on where it was, the community might raise more money or less money. The school board might have to raise some money or less. Like in the case of the Fairfax School, I want to say the community raised about $1,000, the Rosenwald Fund donated about $700, and then the school board raised a little over $3,000 to construct that school. So it was a whole community effort coming together to make that school happen.
Students at Rosenwald took great pride in their school, as it was a significant improvement from learning in one-room schools, churches, or outdoor spaces. Former students Etta Wilson and siblings Beverly Bush and Ronald Taylor attended Fairfax Rosenwald, also known as Fairfax Colored School. Each of them has their own fond memories of their time as a Rosenwald student.
My name is Etta Wilson. I am a descendant of the Allen and Payne families of Fairfax, Virginia. I attended Rosenwald School from 1st to the 4th grade. I was 6 years old when I started the school. The school was called Fairfax Colored School.
My name is Beverly Bush. I attended Rosenwald School from 1st to 4th grade. I was 5 years old when I first attended the Rosenwald School. I had one brother who attended with me. He came after I did. I think I was in about the 2nd grade when Ronnie, my brother, came.
My name is Ronald Taylor. I attended Rosenwald School from the 1st to the 2nd grade. I was 6 years old when I attended Rosenwald School. The school wasn't that far. We walked from our house to the school. It was in walking distance, maybe a quarter mile to a half a mile, if that far. We walked in a group. Everybody from the black community in Fairfax was from West Drive, Canfield Street, and the School Street. So we all got together and walked. We met at the little store and walked to school.
It was 2-teacher, 2-room school with about 100 students. The school, it was one big room with a petition, and 1st and 2nd grade was a long little narrow room down the side of the school.
The room that the 1st and 2nd grades occupied when I started used to be a cloak room, because originally the school was 2 rooms when it opened in 1926.
And each room had like a little stove in it, like a little coal stove.
Let's see, when we got to school, of course, we had to hang our coats up in the little cloak closet.
And I remember us coming to school, I remember with our lunch bags, we'd set our lunch bags on the table at the end of the room.
We did the Pledge of Allegiance and the Lord's Prayer. I remember saying the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance every day, every morning before school started.
And then after that, we'd go back to our classroom and we'd begin our studies, like read, we'd learn penmanship.
Back then, they paid a lot of attention to your penmanship, your writing.
The writing was weird because we had paper that looked like it was made out of wood. You could see the little grains in the paper, and there was 3 lines on the paper. There was a dark line at the top, and a dark line at the bottom. Then in the middle it was like a little dotted line, and your capital letters went from the bottom line to the top line, and your lowercase letters went from the bottom line to the little dotted line in the middle. And you had to stay in between those lines. If you went outside those lines, you got reprimanded. I guess wasn't reprimanded, but you had to do it over again, erase it and do it over again. And the pencils were great big pencils. They weren't not like the pencils that they have now.
And math, I remember having flashcards with the math.
I learned the alphabets. And like I said, the teacher would sometimes read to us, and sometimes she would gather us up in her lap and read to us, read stories to us.
And our books we had, I remember Dick and Jane book. I also remember a book, Little Black Sambo.
And we did poetry. You had to learn poems, and you'd have to stand up in front of the class and recite a poem. There was spelling, and I was pretty good at spelling. And then we'd have lunch, and of course we brought our lunch to school, bagged lunches, and there was no cafeteria. So that's why we had to bring our lunch, and we bought little cartons of milk. You could either have chocolate milk or the white milk, and they were only a nickel for the milk. And they must have had some type of refrigeration because they kept the milk cold. And you know, back in those days, they had milk delivered, so the milk was probably delivered to the school every morning, fresh. And there were dairy farms around in the area, so maybe that's where they got the milk from.
I do remember them. They had an old ice cream churn on the front porch of the school, and it was so good. I remember having recess.
Every day we went out, I guess it's to get you out of the school, to get out in the fresh air.
But we'd make up some of our games ourselves. We'd have the ring games where you'd stand around in a circle and there'd be one person in the middle of the circle and you'd have to do something to make the whole group laugh or something funny, or you dance or something like that. I remember music. At the end of the day, we'd come together from dismissal and we'd sing a song. I don't know that there was music taught. I don't remember that. But I just remember us coming together and singing this song to end the day. That now the day is over. I don't know if anybody ever heard that song. It's like, I think it's a hymn, but now the day is over. That was the end of the day. That's when we sang.
We all attended May Day celebration.
That was a pretty big thing. I remember my mother, she'd have a little dress for me for that.
You know, there were no classes that day. Everybody was out. And it seemed like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, but it seemed like every year on the 1st of May, somewhere around the first week in May, it never rained. I don't recall it raining. It was always a nice sunny day. They
had a big pole that they would put up, and we would have little streamers coming over, and everybody would grab a streamer and run around, go around them like a little dance like around the maypole to wrap the streamers around the pole.
And there'd be food and drinks and games.
The teachers took, to me, a lot of interest in you because they knew where they came from, how it was, and so they wanted us to get the education that we needed to advance.
The teachers took so much, they were so dedicated. And I think they were like that because they wanted us to learn, with us being black and being, you know, second class, so they called. They were determined that we were going to learn. And they kept in contact with us and our parents.
I think it's important to have school like Rosenwald because back then there was not enough emphasis put on black children attending school. So I think that when they built that first school and then they built the Rosenwald School, that it was just great, you know, because I think that black people we needed that. We need that education. Even though it was separate, it was not equal, but it was something.
Rosenwald Schools held immense significance beyond their physical existence. They were instrumental in molding a generation of students and advocating for equal opportunities for all children. While numerous structures remain preserved, only a handful continue to function as educational institutions, with several dozen being recognized on the National Register of Historic Places. On behalf of the Fairfax County History Commission and myself, we hope you enjoyed watching this video and find inspiration, knowledge, and motivation to make a difference in your community.